what are the latest breaking news stories he has gathered this morning. I want to listen on behalf of all of you. And number two is, I have a very tough question for him. How might territorial disputes over Donbas and Crimea affect the sustainability of any peace agreement, because Russia is going to win this long war?
Thank you so much, Mr. Kanchan, for introducing me into the show. I first want to begin by giving my greetings to Dr. Scott Leckman to be here in the studio. It's a very big pleasure for me to have you here. And of course, we have Norman Floyd Barnes joining us through Zoom from Washington, D.C. Well, first off, let me give the updates as I find them. U.S. President Donald Trump has announced on Tuesday a total and complete blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers entering and or leaving Venezuelan waters. I believe the tensions in the Caribbean has escalated to a certain degree. On the other hand, as we were all discussing regarding Ukraine and Russia, Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan on Tuesday warned that targeting commercial and civilian ships in the Black Sea benefits no one. I understand that targeting of these ships definitely relate back to the Ukraine-Russia war. And of course, we know that the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant is receiving electricity through a single external power line after a fire damaged infrastructure linking the facility to a nearby thermal plant, according to a statement on its Telegram channel. These are the latest updates that I have with me today. But as for your second part of the question, how the territorial damages are going across the world, I want to mention that today there is a newfound order that we see. U.S. President Donald Trump and Venezuela of Nicolas Maduro, they are sharing a lot of hostility, especially with economic and trade. Their oil is being sanctioned, and of course the control over the Caribbean Sea is largely at the hands of the U.S. military. On the other side, we understand that European nations on UN Security Council condemn record violence by Israeli settlers. They are talking about the resolution 2334, which explicitly condemns settlement activities and calls on Israel to respect its obligations under international law.
Sir, do you think the outcome from Berlin conference will bring a surprise to the world that war between Russia and Ukraine is ended? No further movement by Vladimir Putin, no further escalation is going on that zone, particularly in Europe, or you assume things are going to be more complicated and volatile?
Thanks for the question. I will try to be as precise as I can be. First off, we know that this war has prolonged its certain time. It's been 3.5 years that this war has gone. It has disrupted the oil markets as well as the grain markets or agricultural markets that Ukraine usually exports around the globe. As per your question, because of the Berlin talks as of recent, we understand that Ukraine has removed its bid to join NATO, and a very big update that has come about this week. And we understand that a peace treaty between the two sides would definitely be important for future decades to come. We know that almost 20,000 children have been displaced because of this war between Ukraine and Russia. So once again, I am very optimistic regarding the fact that the peace could be sustained, given that Europe is in talks with Ukraine itself. And of course, we need to look beyond the differences and indifferences between both Ukraine and Russia. But however, I do not think that this kind of war should go on or prolong for many more weeks to come, especially after such a negotiation effort has been made. If you compare it with Israel and Gaza, I've been calling it regarding that war a very fragile ceasefire, but I do not expect something of the kind to happen when it comes to Ukraine and Russia.
Nokshi Tabassum, she did a question, how can we ensure a peace treaty between these two sovereign states? I am sure she meant Russia and Ukraine, is effective, given that many historical treaties have already failed. Sir, I want to put this question to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kanchan, and thank you to respected audience for passing the question to us through Facebook. Of course, at this moment, we must give some kind of notice because in 1991, these two territories did belong under the same banner, as far as I know, and the fallout happened and everyone came back. The Soviet Union had fell out. And of course, the people currently in Russia do want a reunification. This is an ideology that even if you look at China and Taiwan, it's still there as far as territorial warfare is concerned. But I was listening to Norman Flood Barnes as he was talking about the Bondi Beach attack on Jewish holiday Hanukkah, and I know that according to CNN, it says that the Philippines, another nation that Mr. Norman Flood Barnes had ignored, the Philippines' long battle against Islamist extremism is back on the spotlight after this Bondi Beach attack. The attackers who carried out the killing of 15 people on the beach, 16 people on the beach. Just a month ago, they were traveling to the Philippines, and according to there was a father and son duo, Mr. Sajid and Naveed Akram. So they traveled to the Philippines and they received some kind of training before conducting such an attack. That is as far as I understand. And if you would come back to the recent issue as commenting on Facebook, if a peace can be achieved between Ukraine and Russia, of course, one must understand the intention of the both sides. Russia does not want NATO advancing on its border, and we know that Ukraine does share a big border between Russia and Ukraine. And the eastern flank, almost 25 to 30%, is now taken by the Russian military, of course, by force. If you look at the Donbas region, a couple of days ago, Vladimir Putin had visited India to meet Narendra Modi, and the optics were insane and optics were very nice to see. But one of those comments that came out from Vladimir Putin, it was that he will take Donbas by force. So there is some kind of intention by the Kremlin to understand this. But a lasting peace can be achieved if they were to see across their differences, as I believe.
Fentanyl policy and the global diplomacy. First, I want to get the feedback from our international affairs commentator. He delivers in a very fascinating way. President Trump is in the news for a major defamation lawsuit against the British Broadcasting Corporation, aggressive drug policy moves, and his global diplomatic role, especially linking peace deals in Gaza with focus on Ukraine. Very complicated lines written by Washington Post. I want to ask you, sir, question. What are the political and legal implications of Trump's $10 billion lawsuit against the BBC? Because American people started laughing.
Thanks for the question. I believe this is an issue that does have some kind of updates. The figure that you said, 10 billion, it was far less a couple of weeks ago. We know that the BBC CEO Tim Davie had resigned just when this issue was coming about. However, it comes with a public BBC should come up with a public apology, because they have made mistakes in the past and they have followed a set of rules in order to do some kind of damage control. But in this case, it was, of course, the voice of Donald Trump being edited in a way which shows that he's inciting some kind of violence. So as the 47th president, re-elected president of the United States, he does have some kind of right to protest this term. While the 46th president, Joe Biden, was coming into power, this kind of issue did arrive at his corridor. But once again, he must understand that this does have some kind of reputational damage towards the BBC, as well as the defamation that he says to himself. So this might bring about some kind of faltering of ties between the United Kingdom as well as the United States of America. Mind you that he had visited the United Kingdom very recently, more than I think 2 or 3 times this year, and there was a certain number of disregard or dissatisfaction amongst the British people, as far as I know. And if you were to generalize his leadership as of now, there is some news that I want to give out. The US transferred 22 Cuban migrants to its naval base at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, despite a federal judge ruling that the administration exceeded its authority in holding migrants at the facility, according to a report on Tuesday. So these are just a very small issues that coming about, but every now and then an executive order shall be signed by Mr. Donald J. Trump, and because of that the courts will say that is not how you will proceed. So Of course, it should be a team effort, not just the vocal voices of just one president. It should be the entire administration voicing their concerns, not for international issues, but for issues that concern common Americans.